I'd like to welcome you all to this live presentation of Hanze University of Applied Science, and it's my pleasure to leave the floor to Inge Amesma.
Thank you, Federica. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about what it means to be studying at Hanze University and to be studying in the wonderful city of Groningen. So let's go ahead. Michaela, can you maybe introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Hello, everybody. As you heard already, my name is Michaela, and as Frederica said, I am currently a master's student at Hanze UAS. I also did my bachelor's there, and I like the university so much that I decided to stay one more year for the master's. And I'll be very happy to share my experience with you today.
Thank you, Michaela. As to introduce myself, my name is Inge. I'm an international communication manager at Hanze. I've been working in the marketing communication department for 3 years now. I'm also an alumna of Hanze, as I also studied international communication there. And you may think, okay, so you're Dutch, but you're still studying the international program. That's already something that you should learn about Hanze, is that you're not only going to be studying with people from all over the world, obviously, but also with Dutch people who, like the people who chose the international programs, they are very open-minded, very happy to help you with your Dutch, and just very happy to get to know you. Another fact about me is that I did my study abroad and internship in Spain while I was studying at Hanze, but I will tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. So to show you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today, first we're going to introduce the university, then we'll talk a little bit about COVID and what impact it has on our education. Then we'll talk more about studying at Hanze. Then, of course, we're going to talk about Groningen, what it means to be living in Groningen. And we'll close off with the practical and financial matters, and of course, with a Q&A. So let's start off a bit by introducing our university. Hanze University of Applied Sciences is the oldest university of the Netherlands, the oldest university of applied sciences, in the Netherlands. We were founded in 1798, and we're also the biggest university of applied sciences in the northern Netherlands in terms of both student numbers as well as the variety of programs. We cover almost all study domains, and we also have our own research centers, which research topics that are connected to our studies. Something that is very special about Hanze, or at least about the University of Applied Sciences, is that internships are part of the program. We are really a university of applied sciences, which means that we don't only teach you theory, but we also teach you learn to practice. So, for example, you will also be working a lot in project groups, and indeed we'll do an internship during your studies, but we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Lastly, we have around 30,000 students studying at our university, and about 10% of our student body is international, and they come from an astonishing number of 115 different countries. So we really have basically the whole world represented at our university, and we're super proud of this because we really think that the international community really gives a very nice dimension to our studies as well. And it's very good for you as well, because you don't just have the opportunity to make friends from all over the world, but you can also just learn from each other, tackle intercultural differences, and make meaningful connections for later when you're going to be looking for a job. So it's time to show you a little bit about what our campus looks like. Our campus is called Zernike. It's located in the north of the city. And as you can see, it's quite green. There's quite some plants and trees around the campus. We have very different study facilities as well. We have project rooms, also big lecture halls, but also libraries and places where you can work together with your classmates. But besides that, we also have a lot of restaurants on campus and cafes where you can just enjoy, have a drink with classmates, or have a sandwich or a burger or anything that you would like. And also we have a lot of sports facilities on campus. For example, we have a swimming pool, but we also have a beach volley court. So there's really just a lot to do there. But we are not only located at campus, we also have multiple buildings which are spread throughout the city. For example, this one is the building of our art and design programs called Minerva, which is located right in the city center next to the canal. How Dutch can it be? And I think it's just a very good example of how we have different buildings for different programs. And this one is for art and design. So of course, if you study design, you also have to be in a very pretty building, which happens, as you can see. Of course, this is a question that we get a lot. What kind of rankings does Hanze University of Applied Sciences have? It's of course very important to know if you're considering to study abroad in a different country at a university that you don't know. So we're very happy to be ranked as the #1 University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands by a national ranking called Elsevier. And we're very proud of this because this ranking is not just based on the opinions of experts in the field of education, but also on the opinions of our students. So we're super happy to just be valued that positively by both parties. And next to that, we're also home to many top-rated programs. So many programs of Hanze are basically seen as the best program in their category in the whole of the Netherlands. So if you choose Hanze, you're going to be studying at a very good university. Let's talk a little bit about our programs. We offer quite some international programs at Hanze. We are quite a big university in terms of how many programs we have, but we do divide the programs into separate schools. There's some advantages to being a big university because you will have a lot of opportunities to do interdimensional projects, to have study abroad opportunities, and to get to know many different people. But of course, as we're organized in separate schools, you will still feel like you're part of something smaller. You will not be a number. So basically, I'm sure that you will feel at home because people literally know your name. They know what you're looking for, so you don't have to worry about that. As you can see, we have programs in arts, in business, we have communication programs, but also engineering and health. So we have quite a broad portfolio. And this goes for our master's programs as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go into detail with all our programs, but of course, if you have a question about this, you can feel free to ask it in the Q&A, where our colleague Katja is also there to answer any question that you may have. So of course, we have to address this topic that we don't necessarily love, but of course it's impacting all of our personal lives right now. It's COVID-19. And it's also impacting the way that we study at Hanze. And because we cannot predict the future, we don't know what life is going to be like in a year. So we did find it important to share with you a little bit about Hanze is currently dealing with the epidemic and what this means for our education. Even though we don't know if it's going to be like that next year, you just know how it's organized this year. So right now, a lot of education at Hanze is actually going online, which is logical because due to the measurements, we simply cannot have that many people physically at location. What is important to know is that we do not make these decisions ourselves. We really follow the guidelines of the national government and the Institute of Public Health. And therefore, it also means that it changes frequently. So to stay updated, I would really recommend you to keep an eye on our social media pages. Oh, sorry, I'm scrolling, unfortunately. To keep an eye on our social media pages and also on our website, where we list a lot of useful information about this topic. So what to expect from studying at Hanze? Well, first, when you choose to study abroad, it is definitely a leap out of your comfort zone. You're going to be living in a different country where maybe you haven't been before. Around you, you're going to be hearing a very strange language. Dutch is really probably not something you can easily make sense of. And you have to get used to hearing it around you. But I can tell you one good thing, you don't have to learn the language if you don't want to, at least. Because literally everyone in the Netherlands speaks English. Even my grandparents, who are 90-something years old, even they speak English. Literally everyone you're going to meet on the streets will understand you if you speak to them in English. So you really don't have to worry. Of course, the locals will definitely appreciate it if you learn a little bit of Dutch, but just to get around in daily life, it is definitely not necessary. What you can expect, however, is that your English will improve very rapidly. So even if your English isn't perfect right now, please don't worry, because I promise you, you're going to be speaking English every day in class, in the streets, with the new friends that you're going to meet. So your learning curve is very, very, very steep, and you're going to be learning a lot of English. What can you also expect from Hanze is that you're going to work a lot in international project groups. We offer small scale education, so you're not going to be in big lecture halls so much, but rather in smaller classes of around 25 to 30 students. And for project work, those classes are divided into even smaller groups of around 5 to 6 students. And in this group, you tackle a project, which is usually for a real life client. And you, for example, you do an assignment for them, you design something for them. And in this way, you really work with people from all around the world, which can be challenging in the beginning because everyone has different ways of working. Everyone has different goals, maybe different measures, but you're going to be learning a lot from this because not only do you have the opportunity this way to make friends from all over the world, you also learn how to negotiate, you learn how to handle with an intercultural dimension. So you're really going to be learning a lot from this aspect. And I can promise you it's also very fun because you really get to know people from all over the place. You really get to know culture if you're interested in it. So it's really a nice experience. Also, something that's nice about Hanze is that our lecturers are very friendly. You can call them all by your first name. When I was studying, sometimes I even forgot the last name of a lecturer simply because we were all addressing each other by first names, which is really cool. And they are not only your lecturer, they are also your coach. So for example, when you're doing project work, your lecturer is really your coach in this situation, and they really help you to achieve the goals that you have. Also, one of the lecturers in your program is appointed as your academic advisor, which is basically the person that you can go to for any kind of guidance within Hanze. It's basically your main contact person. So this person is not only there to provide guidance, but also to help you in your personal development and your professional development. For example, he is going to ask you at one point, what do you want to do for your internship? What kind of goals do you have? What do you want to do after your program? And that is really the way that the academic advisor really wants to help you to get the best out of yourself and to perform as well as you can. And then lastly, you see a phrase over there at the slide, which is share your talent, move the world, which is basically our motto, which means that we don't just teach you things so you can know a lot, but also because we want you to make a positive impact, a positive effort on the world around you. We really want you to make a change, to think about what impact your actions have on others. So we really try to indeed offer projects that also not just help you, but also help the environment, help the world around you. And Michaela, I know that you have an example of something that you did while you studied IC. Would you share that with the audience?
Yes, sure. I was just thinking about it because we had this really nice project where we basically were working on campaign for promoting healthy aging, and we were working with it on it together with the university hospital here in the city. So we were basically promoting healthy aging here in the Netherlands, but also in Portugal. And what the project was about is not just to encourage people to live healthier life now, but throughout their whole living, basically throughout their aging, to also stay healthy and fit. And I'm really excited because last week I managed to see actually the client who was for that project on a networking event, and that happened like 2 or 3 years ago. And we were discussing it, and he was actually saying like how these results and how now not only Netherlands and Portugal joined, but like many more countries. So this was really exciting for me to experience.
So in other words, the clients really used the project that you made and indeed incorporated it in real life as well.
Yes, indeed, and it's really like nice to see results after a long period of time.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing your example.
Sure.
Moving on, let's talk a little bit about how the education system works in the Netherlands and at Hanze specifically. So we use the commonly used system called ECTS, which basically expresses the study loads. So one ECTS stands for 28 hours of study. Every year consists of 60 ECTS, and those are spread out over 2 semesters of 30 ECTS. And every semester is divided into 2 blocks. So you have 4 blocks over the whole year, which all have 15 ECTS, and every block is approximately 7 weeks long of both studying, theory, and also project work. And then after every block of 7 weeks, you have 2 weeks of exams and resits. So basically, this is how the study year works. What is very important to know is that during the first year of your studies, you have to get at least 48 credits, because if you do not, this is a national law, you will have to be kicked out of the program. This is simply because we really want to make sure that you study effectively, that you know what you're studying, and that what you're studying really complies with your goals in life and with what you find interesting. So this is why you do that. Because you have exams in this way 4 times a year at the end of every block, you will find that the exams are like composed of smaller units of study than you would find at another university, which is maybe something that you have to get used to a little bit. To me personally, I quite liked it because that just means that you have to study less of content at once instead of just having to study 2 times a year for a very, very, very big exam. So for me, actually, this was quite nice. And about exams and assignments, at Hanze you'll encounter that we have various ways of testing your knowledge. Of course, we have traditional written exams, but you also have to do presentations with your group on the projects that you did. And you also have reflection assignments and reports. And I really want to talk a little bit about the reflection assignment, because this is something that maybe you are not used to doing. What you have to do in a reflection assignment is that you have to explain how you tackled a certain assignment, what went well, what you could have improved, and also really what you learned from it. And in this way, you really need to reflect on why you're learning certain things, instead of just reproducing a lot of knowledge. And I'm not gonna lie, having to do these reflection assignments all the times during my studies, it was not the most fun thing, because it's always this extra thing that you have to do. But looking back at it now, it's a really nice way to find out what your strengths and weaknesses are, what you're passionate about, what things during your studies you like the most. And for me, it really helped me to develop a career path, because I really found out what things about communication I liked a lot, which I wanted to develop myself in, and which were maybe not that suitable for me. In the Netherlands, we scale on a 1 to 10 scale, where 10 is the highest grade. And you have to get at least a 5.5 to pass the course and to get the ECTS that belong to the course. You will have 2 resit opportunities for every exam, so you don't have to stress about not obtaining all your credits at once, which is good. And it's also really a reflection of Dutch culture as well. We don't think that failure is bad. It's really a part of the process, and you really don't have to worry, because things can come up. You might not able to master all the knowledge at once, but it's all okay, and it really helps you just to grow as a person. So what we want you to get out of these slides is that it's super important to plan your study load in advance. It's really key to having success in your studies. So Michaela, we're going to look at the schedule a little bit. Can you explain us a little bit how that works and how you plan your studies?
Sure, I would love to share. So basically, guys, here on the slide, you can see a typical study schedule of a second year or a first year student, or a student of the 4th year, because usually in the 3rd year, you're on the internship or on your study abroad. But basically, this is what you can expect. So the schedule is not every day from 9 till 5, you have to be in the university. No, it is quite diverse. And maybe it doesn't even necessarily match week by week. You could have different classes. Usually you have at least one day in the week that is free, or you have days that you have only one class. But still, as comforting as this is, some students just assume that, you know, when we don't have class, we just relax and we don't do much about school, but that is not the case. Because as Inge said, we need to get our credits in order to pass our courses. And for that, a lot of extra work outside of the classes is required. So be prepared for that. The classes are not that much. They're not all day, every day, but still in the time where you don't have classes, it's nice to work on your assignments and projects in order to be sure that you'll pass the course successfully. And maybe we can look at the monthly schedule, how it looks. Yes, here you can see better maybe for the month that there are days that you don't even have classes and that they're free of classes, or that there are days that you have one class or one coaching session or one session that you meet with your project group, but it's not an actual lecture. So the schedule is quite flexible, and it allows you to really decide how to make use of your own time, which I personally really liked.
So let's talk a little bit about career. At Hanze, we are very, very serious about career development. We really want to support you to not only get a lot of knowledge through your program, but also develop yourself so that you can boost your career in the end and really boost your CV. So you get a lot of freedom actually to design your studies. firstly, you will have a complete year during your studies, which is usually the third year, where you can really just design it to your liking. So for example, first you will do an internship, which is indeed usually in the third year. It is a 30 ECTS internship, and this is really integrated in every bachelor's program. So during this internship, you will have a real working experience at a company. And with a real working experience, I mean that you're not the one getting coffee or printing papers. You're really treated as a real employee. You have to be valued that way. And in that way, you're really doing tasks that another employee could also be doing. And in this way, you will really learn a lot. And the practical knowledge that you learn during your internship, you then take back to the classroom when you get back to the fourth year. And then you draw on that as well. So it's really a two-way thing. Once you really use the theory that you get during your program to advance in your internship, but you also use the knowledge that you gain during your internship, the practical knowledge, to then advance in your program and in your career. And of course, the internship is really a good way to make a lot of meaningful connections for your career later. So it's really wise to choose exactly as well as you can where you want to do your internship. Like for example, if you already know that you would like to work at a certain company later after graduating, why not just try to get an internship there? Because then you will already get to know people, people will know you, and you can make a really good impression. The other semester in the third year, you usually spend doing a minor or an exchange abroad. You can do either one of the two. For example, if you study business, but you're also very interested in IT, which isn't really covered in your program, you can use this minor period of 30 ECTS, so one semester, to really study something related to IT. So to do something completely different than your study program. The choice is really up to you. So you can really develop yourself in the way that you want to develop. For me, for example, I was always very passionate about the Spanish language and the Spanish culture. So for my minor, I decided to do an exchange abroad, and I went to Malaga in Spain. And there I went to a Spanish university, and I did courses which were courses that my regular program didn't offer. For example, I was very interested in tourism and in photography. So I did those kind of courses at the university there in Spain. And while living in Spain, of course, it really boosted my language skills. I can speak fluent Spanish now. So it really helps you to develop yourself in a certain way. Then also at the end of the last year of your studies, this counts for the master's programs as well, you have a graduation project. And in this graduation project, you spend half a year, another semester working at a company. But instead of just a regular internship, you are going to write your thesis for them. So you're going to, as an external consultant, you're going to research a problem that the company has, and you're going to write an advice, maybe write a plan for them so that they can really use this in the future. And in this way, actually a lot of our students get offered a job either during their internship or during their graduation project. So it's a really nice way. All these semesters of the things that you can design to your liking are such a nice way to boost your CV, to really get real work experience, to grow your competences. And that's all while you're still studying. So I would really advise you to really think clearly, okay, what do I want to achieve during this year and a half in total of the things that you can really design to your liking, and to just make the most out of it. Because the more experience you can already get during your studies, the better if you want to find a job after your studies. So talking about that, of course, it is very important to build a network if you want to find an internship. So Michaela, can you tell us a little bit about how you did this during your studies?
Sure. I was thinking about this just now that you were talking about the internship, and actually there were 2 or 3 things that really helped me. And one of the things that really helped me to build my network and to actually find an internship that I went to was through the projects that we were doing already since year 1. So basically already since year 1 up until year 3, when I arrived to the internship, I had worked for like about 6 companies and 6 real clients already. Also, another thing that really helped me was volunteering, because I had the chance to volunteer in a couple of organizations here in the city, which gives you the opportunity to attend various events, to meet people in different fields. So it's always nice to like make acquaintances and like add them on LinkedIn or just like keep in touch with them later. So this is also quite helpful. And of course, something that I think it's underrated, but for us and for the people like that were together with me, my program really helped us. We had specific classes that taught us how to write our motivational letter, how to behave during an interview, how to build up our LinkedIn properly so we can approach companies straight. So Hanze really gave us all the tools and all the expertise that we needed in order to find the internship. Because a lot of people often ask, like, does the university help you to find an internship? And the answer is like, not really, because it's a responsibility of every student, but the university gives you each tool that you need in order to find the internship and support you in that way. So it sounds scary to find an internship, I guess, but it's really not a bad experience. And for me, it was my favorite part of the program. But I think actually you have also been a student. How was that for you?
For me, I indeed agree. It's really the classes that you have at Hanze. Of course, you still have to find your own internship, but they really prepare you for this process. So for example, as I said before, the clearer you know what you want to do, the easier it is to find an internship in this way. For example, I had to find an internship while I was studying in Spain. And I basically thought, I'm not done here. I love it here so much that I want to stay here a bit longer. So then I was like, okay, what kind of fields am I interested in? And then I found out that I was interested in either tourism, as I studied some tourism courses as well while I was in Spain, and also in education. So I tried to find a company in Malaga where I was living, which basically covered one of those sectors. And then I happened to find a Dutch company, which was in the education sector, located in Malaga. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. I really have to get my internship here because this is just perfect for me. So what I did is that I researched their company really well. And I came up with an idea of something that I think would, like a project idea that I think would be perfect for them. So I wrote them a letter basically saying, hello, this is me. I'm a student in blah, 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 blah. And this is what I can offer you. And I think that is a way that really works. Like, don't write a company saying, hey, I am this and this, and I need an internship. No, really go the other way around and say, hey, I have a cool idea, which I think you could develop, and I would really like to help you with that if you would hire me. And basically the company replied to me saying, we weren't really looking for an intern, but your letter was so enthusiastic and you really have good ideas. So they decided to hire me in the end. So I think that's really my advice. Know what you want, try to figure out what you want and make it happen. Just be bold, write a letter, write that resume and just go with it. I think that's my main advice in this topic.
This sounds like such a good experience.
It was really nice, actually. I did my graduation there and it was really hard to go back to Holland because the experience was so nice. But I mean, Holland is great too, so everything's good.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to living in Groningen. Because of course, studying at a university does not only mean studying, it also means having fun in the city where you're living. And this is something that I want to advise you immediately, is to really not only research the university, but also carefully research the place where you're going to be living. Does it fit with your values? Does it offer what you want it to offer? Does it have all the opportunities that you want it to give you? Is the city safe? How would I feel walking around this city? Really try to get a feel of this city, like try to talk to current students. Really try to research as much as we can. So right now we're going to help you a little bit with that by starting to explain a little bit about the city of Groningen. So Groningen is located in the north of the Netherlands, as you can see on the slide. We have a population of around 231,000. And while this might sound small, in the Netherlands this is definitely a city. It's a compact city, but it's definitely a very vibrant city. As you can see, a lot of inhabitants of Groningen are actually students, and this makes that the city really has a nice student vibe. And it's actually been named the best student city of the Netherlands. And why is it? It's mainly because of its safety, but also of the quality of air and water, but also definitely for its facilities, because Groningen is really a student's playground, if you ask me. There's a lot of student associations. A lot of events are organized for students. There's so many restaurants, bars, with so many different offers, you can't even think of it, honestly. But also, Groningen offers you exactly what you wish for you to develop yourself in a certain area. For example, if you're very interested in sports, there's like a tremendous offer of sports facilities, but also there's a big cultural offer. There's many arts museums. There's a lot of music festivals. There's also classes for students in, for example, drama, in music, in improv comedy. You can think of it, or it's offered in Groningen. And I think it's really one of the most vibrant, student-friendly cities that you will ever encounter. So I definitely say that it deserves its title as the best student city. What's also nice about Groningen is that really everything is accessible easily. You can just hop on your bike. Of course, if you're in the Netherlands, you have to get used to biking a little bit. And you have reached the opposite part of the city in just, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes. But also if you're not that fond of biking or you have to learn it a little bit, you can just take a relaxing walk by the canals or use the public transport system, which also works really well. And you'll be in another part of the city in no time. And Groningen is not only a great place to study and to live, but it's also a great place from which to discover the rest of Europe. Sorry, the city has its own airport. For example, we're offering flights to certain destinations in Spain, such as Tenerife or Gran Canaria, but also to the Scandinavian mountains. There's a lot of destinations that Groningen offers, but also it's very easy to get to the airports of Amsterdam or Eindhoven. And I would also really recommend to take weekend trips to London or to Paris, as they are really easily accessible, and it's really a nice experience that you will not forget. So those of you who know a little bit about the Netherlands will think probably that this is Amsterdam, or that at least it looks like Amsterdam. And of course, there are definitely similarities, such as the amount of canals, for example, in the architecture. What's good about Groningen, though, is that it's a lot less touristy. So it really makes it easy to you to feel right at home. This is a really the kind of typical Dutch architecture. I think it's really stunning, and you'll find this kind of architecture all around the city center. And also look at the amount of bikes in this picture. I think basically the Dutch know how to cycle before they learn to walk. It's really something that, yeah, it's really part of our culture. It's really the most easy way of transportation in the city. And it's a lot of fun too, if you ask me. This is also a very Dutch scenery. It's actually located really close to campus. And of course, it was actually named the most Instagrammable spot of the Netherlands just a few weeks ago, because with the colored houses, it's just stunning. If you want to go truly Dutch, you can rent a boat here with your new study friends and just go around the water a little bit and explore the area. And also as Dutch as it gets. If you hop on your bike and you cycle for 15 minutes outside of the city, you will find this stunning scenery of windmills, canals, countryside. It's really typical Dutch, actually. This is a typical Groningen image. If you cycle to the Groningen countryside, this is what you'll find. You can undertake these kind of activities in groups of friends, but you can also go alone. If you want to relax after exams or just, relax a little bit in the countryside, because the Netherlands is really completely safe. You can really do this kind of activities on your own. When I was in high school, I cycled 2 hours every day through this kind of environments to get to school, and I never felt unsafe, even as a child. It really, you can go here anywhere on your own, do any kind of activity, and I promise you, everyone will be friendly to you, and you really don't have to feel unsafe for just a second. Michaela, can you tell us a little bit about how to best explore Groningen as an international student?
Sure, I would love to. First, I want to confirm everything you said, and it is true that you name it and Groningen has it, like sports and music and art and everything that you can think of as a student, the city has it. And that's very important for the student experience. And what I love about the city is that it is very easy to find other people who are like-minded and who have like similar interests like yours, no matter what interests you have. But here on the slide, we have prepared for you like some starting points. And all of these organizations, they actually help international students specifically to find their way around the city and to integrate between each other and within the international community, but also within the local community. So for instance, ESN, the Erasmus Student Network, they organize a really huge welcome week for all kinds of international students with like various types of activities. I know they have like really nice scavenger hunts, and they go to like pub crawls, and they do all kinds of stuff in order to help you find your way around the city, but also to meet other internationals who basically just moved and are in the same situation as you are. Here and Now is an organization that basically combines all kinds of events that are happening in the city and allows you to pick which ones would you like to attend and which ones suit you best. So they really help you find what to do in your free time. As to Groningen and to City Central, they help you like integrate also with the local community, and they have all kinds of activities such as yoga, different workshops, even Dutch courses, and all of those kinds of meet and greet meetings where you can just have a walk with a local person and like practice your Dutch maybe. So if I was you, I would save this slide and like just remember these organizations, because it might be really useful to check their websites once you come here. And maybe it's also nice to talk a little bit more about sports. Because we have such a great sports center that is part of our university. It is called ACLO, and the great thing about it that really students really love, it is so budget friendly that you can basically buy a subscription for under 60 euros per year. So for entire year you pay 60 euros and you have access to all kinds of facilities and all kinds of different classes and sports activities. And we are very proud to have more than 60 different sports as part of this sports center. And basically, yeah, you can find anything: kickboxing, karate, kangaroo jumps, basically anything you want to try, we have it there. And you can just go with it and attend the class. And here on the left, you can see a very nice picture of the pool that Ingi earlier mentioned. So what I find really cool is that we have our own pool on campus, and basically it is really easy to get a dip before school or before lectures or after lectures and then go home. So it's really convenient to have it on campus. So that's something really cool.
All right, Michaela, I'm going to ask you a little bit more to explain a little bit about your experience. What has it been like to live in Groningen for you as an international student? Has it been easy to integrate? What kind of events do you like to attend?
Yes, as I mentioned, my volunteering experience was like the starting point of my socialization around here. And honestly, with my friends, I managed to attend all kinds of events. We've been to like all those open lectures that are usually organized by the two universities or by the museum here. We have been to the museum night, which is really cool, and it happens every year. We've attended the summer music festivals, which is super nice, and like you can really enjoy the student life there, because it's not anymore about the studying, but it's more about the fun part and like just being with people and enjoying nice music and enjoying the nice weather in the summer. So we've attended all kinds of events, and what is nice is that there are a lot of networking and business events, such as even PhD Day, which is not for bachelor or master students, but it's still such an event on which if you go, you still manage to meet professionals from the real working field and to get their advices or their opinions on stuff. But also, Inge, how was that for you when you were a student? How were you enjoying the student life here?
What I really like about Groningen is especially the big cultural offer that is there. Like, for example, a festival that I really enjoy every year is Eurosonic, which is in January. And it's really just a big European festival where European artists from all over Europe come to showcase their music. It's really to discover new talent. So, for example, artists that are now well known, like Dua Lipa and Calvin Harris and George Ezra. They all started out at this Eurosonic Festival in Groningen. Groningen was really basically the birthplace of their career. And it's really just a week of music, artists, performances in all the bars in Groningen, all around the city, on the big square in Groningen, the Grote Markt, as you can see here. It's really just a week full of music, and if you're really into pop music, this is really something for you as well. And also the festival that you mentioned, the one happening in the summer in the park, is also super nice because there's all kinds of cultural and theater going on, and comedy and music, and food festivals as well. I think there's just, yeah, so many festivals in Groningen to enjoy. Of course, right now with COVID, it's more online than offline, but of course this will all pass. So I really hope we get to enjoy Groningen to the max again soon. Can you tell us a little bit more about housing as well?
Sure, I would love to share my experience because that's another thing that is like usually very challenging and very scary for like students that are about to come. So basically, as a university, unfortunately, we do not have a dormitory in the classical sense, but we work with the organization SSH, which is partner of Hanze, and it helps find our students accommodations. And basically, in order to find a room with them, students need to apply, and the application opens already in April. So students need to be very fast to apply because, of course, everybody wants to find a nice spot. So the earlier you apply and the earlier you start looking for accommodation overall, the greater chance you have to find a housing that suits you and fits you and you would feel comfortable in. Of course, a lot of students prefer to get just independently to rent a room in the city, which is also fine. And in that case, here you guys can see two links that we have given you and that are great starting point. One is on our website and it collects all kinds of links that are reliable from agencies and websites for offers for rooms. And the other one is at home in Groningen, which also can give you access to a lot of offers. But speaking of SSH, maybe on the next slide we can show you how many locations SSH has in the city and that you can actually choose where would you like to live and what region suits you best and where would you feel most comfortable. So the nice thing is that you really have a lot of choice. And we usually overall advise you to start thinking of housing really like at least 3 months before your arrival here. And maybe speaking of that, it's also nice to mention overall the living expenses. So of course, the cost of living varies depending on your lifestyle. However, for students, about 750 euros a month should be enough. Since Groningen is a little bit further than Amsterdam and Rotterdam, it is relatively cheaper compared to the life there, which I find a great benefit as a student, to be honest. So besides the Dutch insurance that students usually get, which is about 8 euros, for a student, groceries per month could be around 150 euros, and then extra 200 euros for other expenses such as transport, clothes, maybe going out sometimes. So it is nice to have like such a budget. And of course, the biggest expense is about the rent and the living facilities. However, this really depends on the kind of place you would like to live in. If you do not mind sharing space with other students and living in a student house, the cost can be around 350 or 400 euros. However, if you want to have something that is really yours and that it's really independent, like a studio, it can go up to 700 euros per month.
All right. So I hope that by now we've shared some nice insight into what it means to be studying at Hanze and living in Groningen. So let's address some practical matters as well. As if you want to apply at Hanze, we really hope so. We would be glad if you did. You can apply until the 15th of August. You can already apply if you want. Of course, you will have until the 15th of August. But if you already know, we advise you to apply as soon as possible because then you can also start looking for housing, for example. If you would like to enroll in our physiotherapy program, you have to enroll a bit earlier because they have a selection procedure. And you have to apply before the 15th of January. And our arts and music programs also have an early deadline because you would have to audition or to provide a portfolio. So check out our website in that perspective and you will find all the information there. And the European Masters in Renewable Energy and Sustainable Energy System Management, they also have an earlier deadline. So take that into account. Also on this slide, you can see what kind of documents you need. Generally, these are the documents you need. You will need to provide your IELTS score, which is an English test, so that we can see that you speak English well enough to follow programs at our university. But of course, it can also depend per program a little bit, so make sure to check the website of the program that you are applying to find out the specific details there. So how does it work, the application process? You can find all the information on the link that is mentioned here, hanzegroningen.eu/application. There you can also find a video exactly visualizing how the application process works. So make sure to check that out as well. But just to tell you a little bit about how it works, you have to apply through StudyLink, which is the national application system for universities in the Netherlands. You create an account. You choose that you want to study at Hanze UAS and that you want to start at 1 September 2021, and then you click submit. And then in a little bit, you will receive an email from us, from Hanze, and you will get the login details for Hanze Apply. And there you will have to upload your documents. And then usually within 2 weeks, you will receive a letter of acceptance or of provisional acceptance if you still have to provide us with certain documents. For example, if you don't have your diploma yet, but you will graduate a bit later, you can submit that to us later and you will first get a letter of provisional acceptance. And then tuition fees, of course, also very important. The tuition fee for the bachelor's programs is approximately 1,000 euros for the first year, because this is just the half of the fee. And then for the other years, for the second, the third, and the fourth year, if your program is 4 years, it is approximately 2,000 euros. The physiotherapy bachelor is a little bit more expensive, as you can see. And for the master's programs, the fee is also around 2,100 euros per year, with it as an exception for the Master of Business Administration, which is 20,000 euros for the whole program. If you want, you can pay in portions, so you don't have to pay the whole fee at the end. You will pay the first portion at the end of September. You can make arrangements for this. This is totally fine with us. What's also good to tell you a little bit about is study financing. Our national government actually can give you study financing if you're eligible, of course. You can find more information through the link that is mentioned here, so make sure to maybe screenshot this slide or to get back to it later. One of the requirements is that you have to have a part-time job of at least 56 hours per month. So this is a very important requirement to keep in mind. But we do have students who indeed get study financing, and it's a very nice way to get a little bit of extra money to cover your tuition fees and to have sufficient funds to live in Groningen. But make sure to check out the website to see whether this applies to you as well. Usually our students don't get a student job immediately in the first year because we advise them to first, see what your program is like, see how much time you need to study. But then from the second year onwards, actually a lot of students get students jobs in Groningen because there's a lot of opportunities for that as well. So that was it for the main part of the presentation. Make sure to stick around for the Q&A, of course, and follow us on our social media pages. If you scan the QR code over here on the site, you can get to our Instagram page. We share a lot of useful content there, for example, about information about our study programs, but also upcoming events such as our online open day in November. We share a lot about practical matters and so on. We also have a Q&A Friday every week, so you can ask us any question that you may have because we would love to continue talking to you. So thank you for now. Before we go to the Q&A, make sure that you can know that you can email us at any time or send us a message on WhatsApp as well. And our international student team will be happy to help you out. Federica.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Lots of interesting information, and I can see that some questions arrived to where you were presenting. So just a kindly reminder, whoever has some question, please write in the Q&A in the chat. One of the questions was actually what is the best way to get prepared for the application? So of course, all the documents, maybe some sort of tips that you can share with the audience.
Let me go back to that slide for a second. Michaela, maybe you can explain a little bit about how this process was for you. Was it easy to apply?
Yes, sure. Well, let me see where to start. The application on its own is something very easy to do because you just do it in the online platform. So basically, as long as you have all of your documents prepared, you just upload them, and the university replies really quickly, like within a week or 2 or 3, something like that. I received an answer very quickly. So from that point of view, it was quite easy to apply. It's just steps that you follow online and documents that you upload, and the system guides you. So it was quite easy. For me, it was also very easy to reach out to the university. Inge already provided the international student team's email address. So if you have any questions or anything, I'm sure that you'll receive sufficient help and answers to your questions there.
Yeah, and what's also good to know is that most programs, they don't really have a selection process in place. So as long as you have, of course, the required educational background, you should be able to be accepted to the program. So don't be afraid, just apply and you will get a reaction from us very soon.
Perfect. You mentioned before that you do a lot of project work. You mentioned about a very practical approach to the education. There was a question from Denise that she actually asked what does the project work mean? If you can give us some example, because maybe some people are not used to this in their
Yeah,
own university.
I can imagine, because indeed it's something that is not dealt with a lot in previous education. So a project work really means that with your group, you get assembled into a group. Sometimes you can assemble your own group. Sometimes the teacher does it. But with a group of like 5 to 6 students, sometimes a bit less, you work on one project. So for example, one of the projects I did while I was studying was that we had to create a communication campaign for a certain client. So for example, there were certain people within our project group that were really good in visual communication, in designing stuff. So they did the designing work. I was better at writing stuff, for example, so I did a lot of the writing that had to be done. So within your group, you really divide the work that has to be done for the project, and in the end, you deliver the end result to the clients. So it's really about learning how to collaborate with people from different cultures, which can definitely be challenging. For example, yeah, you will see a lot of cultural stereotypes there, but it's really fun because in this way, it's not only a great way to learn because you immediately apply theory to the real work field to practice, but it's also just fun because this is the best way to make new friends, I think, in your program. I think the people in your project group are the first friends you're going to make if you get along at least, but usually this works out. Michaela, do you have anything to add to this?
I cannot think of much to add because you touched upon the cultural aspect, which is really part of the group work, and it's something that everybody would encounter. And group work is quite fun, and it's quite challenging because you need to really act as a professional, and you're expected to act as a professional, and you have a client, and you need to take care of their needs, but you also need to comply with the requirements of the assignment. So it's really a comprehensive thing that you need to take care of. But it's really where learning happens, because this is the applied approach of education. You learn by doing it, and through doing these projects you really learn a lot.
Thank you so much. There was another question, of course, during like these times. We mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, but maybe we can just remember how the situation is at the moment at Hanze, if you're actually studying in present or if you do some remote classes.
Well, it kind of depends per program as well, because I think you can agree that, for example, programs like sports programs or physiotherapy, they have certain program components that just need to be done in real life. Because if, of course, if you want to train to become a physiotherapist, you have to know how to, actually be a physiotherapist. But of course, other programs like, for example, communications or marketing, they do a lot of online stuff. I think every program has most of their education online, But as I mentioned, some programs have more physical components than others. But we really try to accommodate all our students. Like, for example, we also have some international students that, because of the whole pandemic, they prefer to study from their home country. So that's something that we make possible as well. We really want to make sure that people do not get any negative consequences from this, so they can continue studying. So for next year, of course, we don't know what it's going to be like, if the future is still going to be COVID impacted. But even if it is, you can study online. Of course, we hope to get back to campus as soon as possible, but just know that right now we have a lot of experience in online teaching as well. So you're going to be fine, I promise.
Great. And one question it would be maybe about the background. So for example, let's say I would like to join, let's say, a master in international communication. Do I have to study a similar bachelor degree, or I can actually join even if I have like an engineering background, for example?
It depends per program. I think the communication masters is an example of a master's where you can come from a lot of different programs. They might have to be in like the social economic domain. I'm not completely sure. You can find all of the requirements on our website as well, but it really depends per program. So it's really hard to say something about this like generally.
Perfect. And of course, like talking about, for example, the internship. So you mentioned earlier, for example, the way you approached to the internship, because this might be also different from other countries. So how does it work? Is the internship part of the program, so everyone will get an internship, or is actually not mandatory? How does it work?
For the bachelor's programs, every program includes an internship. But this is usually the part of the program that people like really look forward to as well, because it's really the part where you can just apply all the knowledge you've learned so far and really get into the work field, make connections, to see what you're worth, to see what you like. So indeed it is mandatory, but no one experiences it as mandatory because everyone just likes it so much, I think. I mean, of course, you always have people who enjoy their internship more than others, but generally, I barely know anyone who didn't like their internship. Usually, even if the internship isn't, you discover that maybe the workplace isn't really for you, then you found that out as well and then you learn something from it. So it's always good to learn from your internship. And I think generally, the internship, everyone really likes to do it as well.
I'm not sure if Michaela would like to add on something, maybe personal experience.
For me, the internship was the best part, to be honest, because usually the internship is in the third year in most of the programs, and for 2 years you listen how you are a professional and they treat you as a professional, but you're still at school. But then you get to the internship and you actually find yourself in an office and you see that everything that you've learned you can actually apply to practice, and that gives you really like good confidence and good feeling that whatever you're studying, it's worth, and it gives some results because you're actually able to deal with the real work environment. So internship is really like such a learning experience as well, because then you deviate from theory and from kind of the student experience and you see the real work-life experience. And for me, it was the period of the most growth professionally that I've experienced throughout my studies.
That's great to hear. So we're coming towards the end of our presentation, and I'd actually like to ask Inge and Michaela if they have like a final advice that they feel like they want to give to the audience tonight. Maybe we have people that are starting to look for the next step in education. Maybe someone has already decided. Anything that you think is useful?
Well, first of all, research as much as you can about your study abroad destination. So really, for example, we have an online open day next month. Make sure to visit us there as well to get to know more about our programs. Of course, if you're really sure about studying at Hanze, make sure to apply as soon as possible. And please don't let COVID-19, I know we're in a pandemic, but please don't let it spoil your study abroad dreams, because if this is something that you've been thinking about for so long, I promise you life will get back to normal. Please don't put your study abroad dreams on hold and just go for it, because it's really, I think, a life-changing experience. We would be super happy to receive you, to make you part of our international community, our Hanze family, as we like to call it. So I would really just advise you to go ahead and apply.
Great. Michaela?
I support everything that Inge said, of course, and I would just add that don't be scared because, of course, with the current pandemic happening, there is so much uncertainty, but without it, there is still uncertainty for like, will I do well with the language? Will I find like place to live? How would I deal without my friends and family there? When you're an international student, that is always part of your concerns, but it will be fine. One way or another, it's always fine. Just ask a lot of questions, do a lot of research, never hesitate to reach out because especially Hanze has all the departments and all the facilities and all the tools to help you, no matter if you need help with housing or any kind of legal matters or anything, just always reach out and ask questions as much as you can.
That's great. So I'd like to thank Inge and Michaela for their time for the presentation. And before closing this live presentation, we actually wanted to ask you a question. So whoever is listening to the presentation, we were just wondering if you find this presentation useful. Of course, we hope that it was. And as Inge and Michaela were saying, we will be sending you a follow-up email with all the information. There will be an email address that you can contact in case you have any questions. And of course, they will be available for you at any stage of your next step. Great. So 65% think that this was very useful and is great. So we're really looking forward to seeing you soon at the next live presentation of Hanze University. Once again, I'd like to thank Inge and Michaela for their time and for all of you to staying with us this evening. And I wish you all a very great rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.